Have you ever looked at two people who seem to eat similar foods, exercise about the same amount, and yet one has abundant energy, stays lean, sleeps well, and ages gracefully, while the other struggles with fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, and chronic health issues? At first glance, it looks unfair, but what if the difference isn't just what they eat or how much they exercise? What if the real difference is how they structure their day? Because here's something most people never hear. Your body doesn't just care about what you do, it cares when you do it. Every hour of the day, your metabolism is following a biological schedule. Your hormones rise and fall, your insulin sensitivity changes, your liver shifts between storing energy and burning fat, your brain alternates between periods of alertness and recovery. And when your daily habits align with that biology, remarkable things happen. You naturally produce more energy. You regulate blood sugar more effectively. You burn fat more efficiently, you sleep deeper, and over time, you create the internal environment associated with healthy aging and longevity. But when your daily habits fight against your biology, late night eating, inconsistent sleep, constant snacking, artificial light exposure, chronic stress, your metabolism becomes confused, cortisol becomes dysregulated, insulin remains elevated, fat burning slows down, inflammation increases. The result? You can be eating healthy and still feel unhealthy. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Health is not a single decision. Health is a sequence. A healthy day creates a healthy week. A healthy week creates a healthy year, and a healthy year creates a healthy life. What the research increasingly shows is that metabolic health depends not only on food quality, but also on circadian rhythm, the internal biological clock that regulates nearly every major system in the body. Studies on time-restricted eating, meal timing, and circadian alignment continue to show improvements in blood sugar regulation, body composition, insulin levels, and cardiovascular risk factors when people align their behaviors with their biology. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the scientific formula for what I call a truly healthy day. Not a perfect day, not a biohacker's day, not a day that requires expensive supplements or complicated routines. A realistic day built around 6 evidence-based principles that support your metabolism, hormones, brain function, energy levels, and long-term longevity. We'll cover morning light exposure, meal timing, movement, blood sugar control, stress regulation, and sleep optimization. And by the end of this video, you'll have a simple blueprint you can start using immediately. If you're serious about improving your health naturally and understanding the science behind what actually works, consider subscribing. Every week, I break down complex health topics into practical strategies you can apply in real life. Let's begin with the 6 foundations that make up the scientific formula for a healthy day. Most people think their day begins when they drink coffee. From a biological perspective, that's not true. Your day actually begins the moment light enters your eyes. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is a massive orchestra made up of trillions of cells. Every organ has its own clock. Your liver has a clock, your pancreas has a clock, your fat cells have a clock. Even your immune system follows a schedule. The conductor of that orchestra is a small region in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, often referred to as the body's master clock. And the primary signal that tells this clock what time it is? Light. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When natural morning light reaches specialized receptors in the retina, a signal travels directly to the brain. This triggers a cascade of hormonal events that increase alertness, regulate cortisol appropriately, suppress melatonin, and prepare the body for efficient energy production throughout the day. Research over the past several years has continued to reinforce the importance of morning light exposure for circadian alignment, sleep quality, mood regulation, and metabolic function. Scientists now recognize circadian disruption as a significant contributor to obesity, insulin resistance, and cardiometabolic disease. The problem is that many people wake up and immediately expose themselves to artificial indoor lighting, phone screens, emails, and social media. Their biological clock never receives a strong signal that the day has started. The result can be poor energy, increased cravings, disrupted sleep, and impaired glucose regulation later in the day. Think of morning light as pressing the start button on your metabolism. Without that signal, the entire system operates less efficiently. So what should you do? The protocol is surprisingly simple. Within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking, get outside. Expose your eyes to natural daylight. No sunglasses if safely possible. Aim for at least 10 minutes on bright days and 20 to 30 minutes on cloudy days. You don't need to stare at the sun. You simply need natural light entering your eyes while looking around your environment. If possible, combine this with a short walk. Even 5 to 10 minutes of movement amplifies the metabolic benefits. Another powerful strategy is delaying caffeine for approximately 60 to 90 minutes after waking. This allows your natural cortisol awakening response to occur without interference and often results in more stable energy throughout the morning. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is sending a clear message to your biology. It's daytime. It's time to be alert. It's time to produce energy. And when you consistently provide that signal, your body rewards you with better sleep at night, better energy during the day, and improved metabolic regulation around the clock. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Understanding how your body actually works is one of the most powerful investments you can make in your long-term health. Because before we optimize food, supplements, or exercise, we need to optimize the clock that controls them all. The second principle of a healthy day begins with something that influences nearly every aspect of your metabolism: blood sugar stability. Now, when people hear the term blood sugar, they often think about diabetes, but blood sugar regulation affects everyone. It affects your energy, your hunger, your mood, your focus, your fat-burning ability, and even your long-term risk of chronic disease. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every time you eat, your digestive system breaks food down into usable fuel. Much of that fuel eventually becomes glucose, which enters the bloodstream. To move that glucose into cells, the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin is not a bad hormone. In fact, it's essential for life. The problem occurs when insulin is elevated too often, too high, and for too long. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine insulin is a key and your cells are locked doors. Under healthy conditions, insulin unlocks the door, glucose enters the cell, and energy is produced. But if insulin levels remain elevated day after day because of constant snacking, ultra-processed foods, sugary beverages, and poor sleep, those doors begin to ignore the signal. The body responds by producing even more insulin. This is the beginning of insulin resistance. And insulin resistance sits at the center of many modern health problems, including weight gain, fatty liver, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. What the research consistently shows is that protein-rich meals and lower glycemic eating patterns improve satiety, reduce post-meal glucose spikes, and support better insulin sensitivity over time. This is why the first meal of the day matters so much. Many people unknowingly start their day with foods that create a rapid glucose surge: breakfast cereals, pastries, sweetened coffee drinks, fruit juice, bagels, muffins. The problem isn't simply the calories, the problem is the hormonal response. A large glucose spike is often followed by a large insulin response. Then comes the crash. You feel hungry again, energy drops, cravings increase, and the cycle repeats throughout the day. Instead, think of your first meal as an opportunity to stabilize your metabolism. A simple target is 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein within the first few hours of waking. Examples include eggs with vegetables and avocado, Greek yogurt with nuts and seeds, a protein smoothie with unsweetened ingredients, salmon and eggs, or leftovers from dinner if that's what works for you. Remember, your body doesn't know what foods belong to breakfast. It only responds to nutrients. Protein is particularly powerful because it supports muscle maintenance, increases satiety hormones, and generally creates a much smaller glucose response than refined carbohydrates. Next, add healthy fats and fiber. And these nutrients slow digestion and help smooth out blood sugar fluctuations. Think vegetables, nuts, seeds, olive oil, avocados, and minimally processed foods. Another practical strategy is to avoid grazing all day. Every snack triggers a metabolic response. Every snack gives insulin another reason to rise. This doesn't mean everyone must fast. It simply means creating periods where the body is allowed to finish processing food. One question I often ask patients is this: are you eating because your body needs energy or because your blood sugar has become unstable? There's a big difference. A healthy day is not built on constant fueling. It's built on metabolic flexibility, the ability to comfortably switch between using glucose and stored body fat for energy. And that flexibility begins with the choices you make during your first meal. Because when blood sugar remains stable, everything becomes easier. Energy becomes more consistent, cravings become less intense. Focus improves, fat burning becomes more efficient, and the rest of the day starts working with your biology instead of against it. The third principle of a healthy day is understanding something that most people completely misunderstand about exercise. Movement is not primarily about burning calories. It's about sending metabolic signals. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes in modern health is viewing exercise as a punishment for what you ate. Your body doesn't see movement that way. Your cells interpret movement as information. Every step you take, every muscle contraction you create, every walk, squat, push-up, or lift sends powerful biological messages throughout the body. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscles as giant storage warehouses. When you eat carbohydrates, glucose enters the bloodstream. That glucose needs somewhere to go. One of the healthiest destinations is skeletal muscle. The larger and more metabolically active your muscles are, the more glucose they can absorb and store. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When muscles contract, they activate pathways that allow glucose to enter cells, even with less dependence on insulin. In other words, movement helps lower blood sugar naturally. This is one reason physically active individuals often have better insulin sensitivity than sedentary individuals. Muscle acts like a glucose sponge. The more frequently you use it, the more efficiently it works. What the research shows is that even short periods of movement after meals can significantly improve post-meal glucose control. In some studies, brief walks performed after eating have produced measurable improvements in blood sugar regulation compared with remaining sedentary. Now, here's where many people get trapped. They believe health requires an hour-long workout. If they can't do a full workout, they do nothing. But physiology doesn't work that way. Your metabolism responds to movement throughout the entire day. Small inputs matter. A 5-minute walk matters. Taking the stairs matters. Standing up regularly matters. A short body weight workout matters. The body rewards consistency more than perfection. One of the simplest protocols I recommend is the 10-minute movement rule. After your largest meal, go for a 10-minute walk. Not an intense workout, just walk. This simple habit can help reduce glucose spikes, improve digestion, and increase daily energy expenditure with almost no downside. The second movement strategy is strength training. If walking is one of the best tools for immediate blood sugar control, strength training is one of the best tools for long-term metabolic health. Every pound of muscle you maintain improves your body's capacity to handle glucose. And as we age, this becomes increasingly important. After the age of 30, adults naturally begin losing muscle mass unless they actively maintain it. This process, often called sarcopenia, is strongly associated with reduced metabolic health, decreased mobility, and accelerated aging. Think of muscle as your metabolic savings account. The more you invest today, the more protection you have later. A practical goal for most people is 2 to 4 strength training sessions per week. You don't need fancy equipment. Bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, dumbbells, or gym-based programs can all be effective. The key is progressive challenge. Give your muscles a reason to stay. And here's an important point many people overlook. Movement also affects the brain. Physical activity increases blood flow, supports mitochondrial function, improves insulin sensitivity in the nervous system, and helps regulate mood-related neurotransmitters. This is why a short walk often improves mental clarity. You're not just moving your body. You're changing your chemistry. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. My goal is to help you understand the mechanisms behind health so you can make decisions based on biology rather than marketing. Because when you stop viewing exercise as calorie burning and start viewing it as metabolic communication, everything changes. Movement becomes less about punishment and more about creating the environment where health naturally thrives. The fourth principle of a healthy day is one of the most powerful and most overlooked tools for improving metabolism: meal timing. Most people focus exclusively on what they eat. Far fewer pay attention to when they eat. But your body cares deeply about timing. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your metabolism follows a circadian rhythm. Just like your brain has times when it's naturally more alert and times when it's ready for sleep, your digestive system, pancreas, liver, and fat cells also operate on a schedule. During the daytime, your body is generally better equipped to process food. Insulin sensitivity tends to be higher. Glucose is handled more efficiently. Digestive processes are more active. As evening approaches, those systems begin preparing for recovery and repair. Yet modern life often does the opposite. Many people skip breakfast, eat a rushed lunch, and then consume their largest meal late at night while sitting under artificial light, watching television, and preparing for bed. From a biological perspective, that's like asking the night shift to do the work of the day shift. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your liver is a factory. During the day, the factory is fully staffed. Workers are active, machines are running efficiently, packages are processed quickly. At night, the factory begins shutting down. Fewer workers are available, processes slow down, maintenance crews move in. Now imagine hundreds of new deliveries suddenly arriving just before closing time. The factory becomes overwhelmed. This is similar to what happens when large meals are consumed late at night. The body can still process the food, but often less efficiently. Research in circadian biology continues to show that eating later in the evening is associated with poorer glucose control, higher insulin exposure, and increased risk of metabolic dysfunction compared with consuming more calories earlier in the day. This doesn't mean you need to stop eating at 4 p.m. It means you should align eating patterns with biology whenever possible. One practical strategy is to establish a consistent eating window. For many people, a 10 to 12-hour eating window works extremely well. For example, breakfast at 8 a.m., dinner completed by 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. This naturally creates a fasting period overnight, and that fasting period is where many important metabolic benefits occur. As insulin levels fall, the body gains greater access to stored fat for fuel. The liver gets a break from constant processing. Cellular repair mechanisms become more active. Metabolic flexibility improves. Now, some people choose more structured forms of time restricted eating, such as 14 or 16-hour fasting windows. For certain individuals, these approaches can be effective, but the biggest benefits often come from mastering the basics first. Stop eating late, create consistency, allow your body time between meals, and avoid constant grazing. Remember, the goal isn't starvation. The goal is giving your metabolism periods of work and periods of recovery. Just like exercise builds strength during recovery, not during the workout itself, many metabolic improvements happen when the body is not actively digesting food. Another practical tip is to make dinner slightly smaller than lunch whenever possible. Many cultures with exceptional longevity naturally follow this pattern. They eat more during active hours and less as the day winds down. This aligns remarkably well with what modern metabolic research continues to reveal. And here's something important. You don't have to implement this perfectly. Even moving dinner 1 hour earlier can create meaningful benefits over time. The body responds to direction, not perfection. If you're constantly eating from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, your metabolism never gets a chance to switch modes. But when you create intentional periods without food, you allow the body to do something it was designed to do: burn stored energy, repair damaged cells, and restore metabolic balance. A healthy day isn't just about feeding the body, it's also about knowing when to stop feeding it, because health is created not only by nourishment, but by rhythm. The fifth principle of a healthy day may be the one that surprises people the most, because you can eat the perfect diet. You can exercise consistently, you can take all the right supplements, but if stress remains chronically elevated, your metabolism will still struggle. The reason comes down to one powerful hormone: cortisol. Now, cortisol often gets a bad reputation, but like insulin, cortisol is not the enemy. In fact, you couldn't survive without it. Cortisol helps regulate blood sugar, blood pressure, inflammation, alertness, and energy production. The problem isn't cortisol itself. The problem is living in a state where cortisol never gets a chance to come down. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment for signals of safety or danger. When stress is perceived, the brain activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, often called the HPA axis. This triggers the release of cortisol and adrenaline. In short-term situations, this response is incredibly useful. It helps you react quickly and survive threats. But your body cannot distinguish between a charging predator and an overflowing inbox. It responds to both through many of the same biological pathways. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your stress response is like a car accelerator. It's designed to help you speed up when necessary. The problem arises when your foot remains on the accelerator all day long. Eventually, the engine overheats. Fuel efficiency drops, parts wear down, performance suffers. That's what chronic stress does to the body. Persistent cortisol elevation can increase cravings, impair sleep, raise blood sugar, promote abdominal fat storage, and contribute to insulin resistance. This is one reason people often gain weight during stressful periods, even when their diet hasn't changed dramatically. The body is receiving a message. Conditions are uncertain. Store energy. Research continues to show strong connections between chronic psychological stress, metabolic dysfunction, cardiovascular disease, and systemic inflammation. This is why stress management is not a luxury. It's a metabolic intervention. One of the most effective strategies is surprisingly simple. Create deliberate moments of recovery throughout the day. Not distractions, recovery. There's a difference. Scrolling social media is not recovery. Checking emails while watching television is not recovery. The nervous system needs genuine signals of safety. One practical protocol is the 5-minute breathing reset. At least once or twice per day, stop what you're doing. Slow your breathing. Inhale through the nose for approximately 4 seconds. Exhale slowly for 6 to 8 seconds. Repeat for 5 minutes. This longer exhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural braking system. Heart rate decreases, stress hormones begin to fall. The body shifts toward repair and recovery. Another powerful habit is spending time outdoors. Nature exposure has been associated with reduced stress markers, improved mood, and better nervous system regulation. Even a short walk in a park can have measurable effects. Social connection matters too. Humans are biologically wired for connection. Positive relationships send powerful signals of safety to the brain. Isolation often amplifies stress physiology. And here's something many high achievers need to hear. Rest is not the opposite of productivity. Recovery is what makes productivity sustainable. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. Understanding the connection between stress physiology and metabolic health can completely change how you approach wellness. Because the goal isn't to eliminate stress. That's impossible. The goal is to become better at recovering from it. When cortisol rises appropriately and then returns to baseline, the system functions beautifully. But when stress becomes a permanent state, health begins to pay the price. A healthy day, therefore, includes more than good nutrition and exercise. It includes intentional moments where the body receives a clear message: you are safe, you can recover now. And that message may be one of the most powerful medicines available. So let's bring everything together. The scientific formula for a healthy day isn't built on complicated hacks, expensive supplements, or extreme routines. It's built on biological alignment, working with your body instead of fighting against it. Today, we've covered 6 foundational principles that influence nearly every aspect of metabolic health. First, start your morning with natural light to synchronize your internal clock and establish healthy hormonal rhythms. Second, stabilize blood sugar with a protein-rich first meal that reduces insulin spikes and supports sustained energy. Third, use movement as a metabolic signal by walking regularly and maintaining muscle through strength training. Fourth, align meal timing with circadian biology and give your metabolism periods of recovery between meals. Fifth, manage stress proactively so cortisol supports your health instead of undermining it. And finally, protect sleep as the master recovery system that restores nearly every major function in the body. Notice something important. None of these habits work in isolation. They work together. Morning light improves sleep. Better sleep improves blood sugar control. Stable blood sugar reduces stress on the body. Lower stress improves hormonal balance. Movement improves insulin sensitivity. Proper meal timing enhances fat burning. Each habit strengthens the next. That's why health isn't usually transformed by one massive change. It's transformed by a series of small actions that reinforce each other day after day. And here's the encouraging part. You don't need to implement everything at once. In fact, I recommend the opposite. Choose one habit, just one. Maybe it's taking a 10-minute walk after dinner. Maybe it's getting outside for morning sunlight. Maybe it's adding more protein to breakfast. Maybe it's putting your phone away an hour before bed. Start there. Observe how your body responds. Track your energy, track your sleep, track your hunger levels and mental clarity, because when you begin listening to your biology, your body often tells you exactly what's working. Remember, the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. A healthy day becomes a healthy week. A healthy week becomes a healthy month. A healthy month becomes a healthy year. And eventually, those daily decisions become the foundation of a longer, stronger, healthier life. So here's my challenge for you. Pick one of the 6 principles from today's video and implement it within the next 24 hours. Not next week, not next month. Today. Small actions repeated consistently create extraordinary results. If this video added value to your life, be sure to like the video and subscribe to join a community of people committed to optimizing their health naturally. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.